Feeling overwhelmed by shipping complexities and industry jargon? ProShip ParcelCast Unwined is here to help. Join us as we unwind with industry experts, break down complex topics, and make shipping enjoyable with a cocktail in hand. Learn about the latest trends in technology, navigate carrier changes, and gain valuable insights from the pros. ProShip ParcelCast Unwind. It's your one-stop shop for simplifying logistics, one sip at a time. Brought to you by ProShip, the last shipping software you'll ever need.
Welcome back to another episode of ProShip ParcelCast Unwind. This episode's called 2024 Unpacked, Looking Back and What Lies Ahead. Today we're going to talk about everything affecting this past year, from carrier chaos to AI, peak season, and then even talk about some security. Not to mention what we can expect to looking ahead in 2025. We're joined by two industry experts from ProShip, Jeff Lukaszewski, Senior Director of Technology, and Justin Cramer. Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about your experience and where you're coming from?
Sure. Been with ProShip for 14 years. Started out in support, moved into professional services, and moved into R&D, and kind of worked my way up. In a different life, I worked at FedEx, and in a different life, I worked at UPS. So.
Nice. All right, Justin, tell us the co-founder story.
I'll try to keep it short. Prior to doing logistics, I was a nuclear machinist mate in the U.S. Navy, operating one of the oldest nuclear power plants on the USS Enterprise. Got out and found that logistics is significantly easier than working with 80-year-old nuclear technology. So I've been doing this for 24 years now. Obviously, as one of the co-founders of ProShip. Had a lot of help from people like Jeff, and we've been able to build this company up to where we've had the privilege of being able to work with some customers that ship over 100 million packages a year, customers who've shipped more than 3 million packages in a single day. And we've been able to deploy these solutions to some companies that ship across 4 continents. So it's been a really fun 24 years putting all that together.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, thanks guys. So
24 years.
All right, so before we get started about our discussion, let's take a quick break. We'll raise a glass. I know we're not all drinking the same thing. So I am drinking like a festive cranberry fizz mocktail. It's got a poppy cranberry, some cranberry juice, some cranberries, and then some rosemary. Jeff, what's in your glass?
I'm drinking Ardbeg. Fancy scotch. It's very smoky. Before the call, we were talking about it, and kind of said it's similar to, licking the backyard for dirt or an ashtray, but it's tasty.
All right, Justin.
I know I sold it really hard.
You did. We all want a glass.
I guess I'm representing the common man, which is a simple Southern comfort here, which was the whiskey that was available.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. Silk-on Cokes were always my favorite growing up.
All right, so we will get into it. Let's talk carriers. Justin and Jeff, it seems like every day there's a new change or a new headache. Justin, how have you seen the industry evolve just over the last year?
Well, one, we've seen a ton of changes happen. We have seen, though it's still, I need to point out that everything has changed, but very little has changed. Okay. When I say very little, the big 4 carriers are still executing more than 97% of all shipments. Okay. All these new carriers that we're starting to see pop up, they're really fighting over 3%, but that's significantly greater than the 1% that we were talking about 5 years ago. Actually, it was less than 1%. So we are seeing tremendous growth in them. But when we really look at it, number one, DeJoy has not slowed down yet. We continue to see more changes from the United States Post Office in the last, Jeff, what would you say, 24 months?
Yeah.
So more changes in the last 24 months than we saw in the prior 22 years. Okay. It really is that large of a set of changes that we're seeing, even to the point where we just saw a lot of companies that made their business off of reselling postal rates That's gone. That's gone as of a couple of days ago. So very recent, not unexpected, kind of announced and projected, but very different and a very big change from the post office we knew even 5 years ago.
Jeff, is there anything you want to call out for impacts of eliminating consolidators, postal consolidators?
Yeah, I mean, it creates some strife for shippers, right? So because they had these options and now their options are a lot less. I think what I'd like to see is USPS's long-term goals to bring those customers in-house. So I get the feeling like they want to be more direct to those customers instead of using resellers and channel networks. And so I'd like to see how they're going to bring those customers in-house. I know once they changed some stuff, a lot of the customers, they moved to USPS services offered by UPS and FedEx. So, but I'd like to see their long-term goals and where that comes in. That has caused a bunch of quick changes where, very quickly the customer needs to change the carrier they're using because that's no longer a viable option. So.
And those changes might be to some of those other carriers, that the dozens of carriers that we've seen. I know I mentioned that right now they're fighting over 3% of the overall delivery volume. Okay, now that might also be because we have trailing information, not leading information. But I should mention that from ProShip customers, we see up to 30% of some of our customers' volume going outside of UPS, FedEx, Amazon, or the United States Post Office.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, sorry. And the other thing that they're also going, another direction they're moving in is a rebranding of the EVS. So they're planning on a new, and they're calling it USPS Ship. And there's a URL that we can provide as part of this that actually has comparison between EVS and this new USPS Ship. I believe customers were provided an email from USPS this week or last week stating that there's some new changes coming along and they need to be converted over February of next year. From a technical standpoint, there's not a lot of changes. It still uses the same rate file, still uses the same manifest file, still the same way of transmitting that stuff. So there's a few cosmetic changes in the label, but beyond that, for the most part, from a technical standpoint from ProShip, you're not going to see a lot of changes. There are a lot of changes in the customer portal, the customer-facing parts of this process. So right now, the EVS system, if you've ever had to look at the billing or look at the orders or that portal, it's archaic and it's very hard to find what you're looking for. So they've revamped that whole process, the billing process, being able to look up orders. They've added some additional intelligence into if you provide a manifest and there's some information that's missing, they're going to try to be smarter and not just air it all out. They'll try to fill in the missing blanks to make it easier. So there are some major improvements to the process. But from a customer standpoint, from a ProShip standpoint, there's not going to be a lot of things that change on our end.
Jeff, I want to follow up on something you said there as a product person, right? What you've just told everybody is there is a change to a program that if they're shipping with the United States Post Office, their vendor is going to have to provide updates. If you're using ProShip or WorldLink, those should happen automatically for you. But if you're not, and if you're just watching us because, well, we have a lot of knowledge about logistics, do make sure that your vendor of choice has a means of moving you from EVS to this new program.
Good call out, Justin. And I think outside of the Postal Service, I know Jeff, you've talked about how carriers are focusing on improving speed to market for updates and then kind of tracking capabilities. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. There's a joke that I have where sometimes I said it feels like we write code to last days or weeks. And this past year, it kind of feels like that's almost true. As the landscape has changed with logistics and the needs of customers have changed and the whole dynamic, the carriers have changed with it. And one of those is them being more dynamic with their pricing, with their services, with their manifests and labels. And so instead of at the end of the year being rate change and getting all of that done in those last few months of the year, it's multiple times a year. One of those, an example of this would be working with UPS. I was working with someone, and we were looking at their surge fees that they have. And they have the chart is like a 2-month range between November and the December, beginning of January. And I think the rate changes 3 or 4 times. So depending on what date you are, you're paying a different rate for those fees. So they're trying to be dynamic and bring that quick change to the market, which, you know, that in itself is a problem. The other part of that is communication, right? We've had some feedback from our customers, and one of those being our lanes of communication with the carriers. So we try to improve that and make sure that, hey, you know, have the carrier inform us as far ahead as they can of these changes and give us as much runway to implement those changes, communicate with our customers, and make sure everything is tested and vetted and it's working as expected. And that's a challenge. So, but we've been, you know, the carrier's been more open, more willing to communicate and have that. So I'm hoping that going forward, it won't be so turbulent. You know, we've had some instances where we've had like 10 days to make a change. So I'm hoping in the future that some of that will be adjusted, and as they get more comfortable and they get used to what they're doing, and it becomes more of a cadence, that these things will be implemented quicker and faster. With the other part of that is the tracking. I call it the Amazon standard, right? So when Amazon gets a package dropped at your door, you know, 30 seconds later, you have your Alexa saying, "Hey, a package has been dropped off," or you're getting the text message or your email. The carriers are starting to, you know, FedEx, UPS, and USPS have started to adapt to that as well. They're all adding features beginning this year to do more like webhook API, almost close to real-time tracking notifications and statuses. You know, images. They're going to take pictures of the package at your door, and they're looking to add that as a service. Right now, they see value in that, so they're going to add their own subscription plans to some of that to provide that service that the customers are looking for.
And Justin, Jeff brought it up, so now I have to ask you, let's talk about Amazon. How is this shipping giant affecting the game?
Well, they are and they aren't yet. Okay, so Amazon is good once they get started at something at doing it in bulk. Okay, however, that doesn't mean they always get started as quickly as everybody would expect. As we see this, we are seeing entire companies start to shift towards Amazon as a carrier. But what we're also seeing is that Amazon is learning what it means to be a carrier. Jeff just talked about the communication that's necessary, or he alluded to the communication that's necessary. And it really is something that a lot of carriers, or a lot of new carriers, need to learn. And oddly enough, Amazon is a relatively new carrier when we think about it. They used to have just one customer, Amazon, right? So now that they're looking to service hundreds upon hundreds of customers, they're looking to service 100 upon 100 of companies, and they're learning to deal with enterprise software companies like ourselves, the ERPs, the WMSs, you know, things of that nature. I will say there's a little bit of growing pain, but luckily for them, you know, we've got years of working with this. So the more they work with us, the better it seems to do. But that being said, they've got a bit of an uphill battle and a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah. Anything you want to add there, Jeff, about Amazon?
Just a little bit on that there is working with them on a technical level is sometimes confusing and hard to deal with, and I think that's part of the maturity. They have a tendency to have a lot of products that are similar but a little different, and so navigating some of that has been a challenge for us, for our IT team. And so we talk to a customer like, okay, so we want to use Amazon. Okay, perfect. what Amazon are you using? And then go from there. And sometimes it's okay. Well, I think I know what you're talking about. I need to look it up and find more details. So that is a challenge that we have on our side. And I'm guessing as they mature as a carrier, a lot of that can be consolidated, and it'll be a lot more clear in what the services and the offerings that they have are.
Yeah. All right, Justin, coming up on one of your favorite topics, let's talk AI. Seems like it's everywhere, even in shipping. What are you seeing? How is it best used?
Well, look, AI is great, and I have a tendency to oversimplify what AI is, and it really comes down to two things. Okay, if there is an exact answer, like cost, there is only one right way to create a UPS label. There's only one right way to create a post office label. And trust me, if you create it wrong, they're going to let you know about it. Okay. So these things that there's only one right answer for, you need to have algorithms to create those. On the other hand, there are so many other things that are probabilities. Okay. And I'm talking about, let's say the three of us are going to pick packages in a warehouse. And we've got, let's say, 30 orders. If we start to look at the combinatorics of the line items on that order, the number of ways in which they can be distributed to the three of us, what might be the most effective pick path? I mean, maybe Jeff and we don't work well together, or worse yet, we work too well together. Okay, so maybe we need some of the AI to eventually recognize the productivity probabilities when Jeff and I are in the same aisle and move us around one another so we can horseplay at lunch rather than in the aisles. Okay, so these are all those areas where, again, the probabilities really have a lot to do with it. There is no perfect way to pick an order. Okay, you may be able to figure out how the perfect way to pick one day after years of study. Okay, but we all know that's going to change, and it may change while you're actively on the floor. So things like pick plans, things like in the e-commerce cart, what to recommend next, things like how many actual days in transit is it going to take to get from point A to point B. These are all things that are highly probabilistic. Okay, but things that are not is cost, the way the documents are produced, the way you communicate EDI or PLD. Okay, these are all things that are going to continue to be needed and need to be completed by strict algorithms. And then where the probabilities come into play, you're actually going to want to enhance those with AI. Now, specifically, what we've seen lately is the use of agents, the agentification of AI. And what that really means is that AIs are being created for a specific problem. Okay, so for example, a specific pick process AI. Okay, a specific time in transit AI, a specific shopping cart AI, or catalog AI, right? And there's a reason for this. If you're super nerd like me and you're following all of these things, I'm gonna read the title of this article because I never get it right. It's the GSM symbolic, understanding the limitation of mathematic reasoning in large language models. Large language models is how we are seeing most of the AI being realized nowadays. ChatGPT, large language model. Gemini, large language model. As we see all these things out there, that's what they're based on. And really what this team from Apple, most of them worked at Apple, so I'll just say it's from Apple. This team from Apple realized that these agents become really, really good at a topic, but that doesn't mean they actually have reasoning. They can't actually put two and two together and go, there's a hurricane, therefore nobody's going to be picking, therefore there's going to be, and do the follow-on effects. They don't have that reasoning capability. But what they do have is they do have the ability to absorb, for example, all three of our knowledge and become really, really good at talking about shipping software. Okay, they're really good at producing that copy. They're really good at making a recommendation as to how you might integrate those solutions. Okay, that is very powerful, and companies should start using these agents, these AI agents, where they make sense. Okay, but we also need to understand their limitations, which at this point in time, which will change as we continue to get more powerful processors, as we continue to see the art refine itself. But that limitation hits a wall when we get to a certain point of reasoning and not just prediction.
Yeah, those are like hallucinations, right? They call them almost.
You know what? Actually, yeah, many people have heard of the fact that if you talk with ChatGPT for a very long time, and this was especially true in the older versions of like ChatGPT 3 and 3.5, that it would hallucinate after a little while. And the problem is that it would, because it's not a true reasoning engine, it is a predictive engine. Well, the more you talk to it, the wider and wider and wider and wider those predictions become, until the point they include things that do not reflect reality. Now, they've done a lot of work in pulling those things in and trimming some of those things to ensure that they hallucinate less. But I haven't heard anything that implies that we're going to see, especially text generative programs, ever be able to carry out a continuous, indefinite conversation. The nice thing about when we look at, and I do have to reflect on the agents, most of the agents are looking to solve a problem. What is Jeff's pick plan for today? What is Justin's pack plan for the day, right? That is finite, and then we can start that whole tree process again, and we eliminate all the hallucination. Okay, and I'm oversimplifying that. Okay, please, those of you who have doctorates in this stuff, please don't come and try to feel I'm attacking you. I'm trying to simplify this down for the rest of us. And really, what it comes down to is especially in business, we usually have discrete tasks. Okay, and once you've completed a discrete task, you actually get that opportunity to reset the memory and eliminate the hallucinations.
Jeff, anything on AI you want to add there?
Yeah, I read a good chunk of that article. It gets a little hard, dry, a little technical, a little in the middle, but there was some interesting. I like the way they put it, right? Like I'm looking at it right now, and it was the pattern matching rather than formal reasoning. Although LLMs can match more abstract reasoning patterns, they fall short of true logic reasoning. Small changes in input tokens can drastically alter models' outputs. So, that's an interesting thought there, because, like you were saying, where it's just doing pattern matching. You ask what color is the sky, it's blue. It's just trying to find these words have this answer output. But when you start adding multiple words to those questions, multiple steps, changing what you're asking for, the responses you can get can widely vary. I thought that was an interesting. It makes sense, and if you understand how those LM work, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. That's a major limitation. But it's also where it's almost like you need to have, the way to make that work is you have a very specific LLM that is meant for this one particular task, and then you have them work together with other ones in a unison to get that, full reasoning, right? Where you have this one, this is all this has one task, it's all it does. This is one particular job of the whole process, which I could see. The other thing is ProShip, our developers use, we're a Microsoft house, we have access to Copilot, and I've used it, and it's very helpful. It does a great job. You can kind of pseudocode what you're looking for, and then it gives you a code example. You can even do it in a web browser, right? But again, you have to be very specific what you're asking for, and so there are times where you ask for something and then it's not quite what I'm looking for, so you have to refine, change that input to change what you're asking for, and then hopefully you get closer to what you're looking for. And even then, you still need to read through all that, and you still need to know what you're asking for. So from a development standpoint, the AI is very helpful. It's a good tool, but that's all it is. It's still a tool, right? It's not going to do the coding for you. You still need to understand the coding examples that it provides you. You still need to understand what it's doing. You still need to be able to apply that to your application, whatever you're writing. So in that sense, it's a very helpful tool. And I'm looking forward to see, new features that come out from this and how it can help us develop and code faster, quicker, less errors, less bugs, that type of thing. So looking forward to the future.
You bring up a good point there. There is a reason right now that there is a career path that is a prompt engineer, and it is the fact that by putting a lot of this into agents and allowing APIs to do the communication, we eliminate the problems that come with a general text interface, right? That's really the problem with Copilot, is you have to talk to it, okay? It's really good at understanding the code that you highlight and say, evaluate this code. It probably has really great options at that point in time, at least all the stuff I've looked at, right? Though some people say Claude is a little better than ChatGPT, but we're not here to argue that. But the reality is that the reason there's such a thing as prompt engineering, there's a reason that so many people are learning how to ask it questions, is because you can fool some of these LLMs by providing it with a confusing second grader word problem, right? By talking about apples, oranges, and kittens, and then asking it about the ratio between apples and oranges, it is probably still going to want to talk about kittens because it has a kitten token, okay? And a good prompt engineer is going to immediately weed out the information about kittens, because that's not what we're talking about. This is a fruit question, not a fruit and kitten question, okay? And where agents really come into play, because this is a call being made from the WMS to that agent, right? This is a call that's being made from the e-commerce suite to that agent, where it has a finite number of items in the cart. There's a finite number of line items in this set of orders, right? That's already narrowed down the parameter set in order to eliminate the distraction of the kitten.
Wow. You guys could probably talk about AI all day, but we do have to move on. I feel like we can't have a podcast in December without at least touching on peak season. Jeff, what are the biggest challenges shippers are facing during this crazy time?
The two that really come to mind, one is planning. So a lot of times, our professional services team, the demand kind of goes up and down depending on what time of the year it is. We're very busy. The first two, September and October, we're very busy, right? So it's right before peak hits November and December. Everybody wants to get all those changes in, those last minute carriers, those last minute changes, all those things in right before they hit peak. And it is just a deluge of customers and requests that are coming through. And sometimes we will accommodate, we'll do whatever we can to get it done, but that also creates some pressure because we're running against the clock. So it's always, we need to have it in by this date. And that just is asking for potential problems, and didn't test every scenario, and all of a sudden you hit peak and then things aren't working the way you expect them to work. So it's plan ahead. So if you, the sooner you know that you need these things in, the sooner you come talk to your SAM, open a support ticket, whatever, saying, hey, I need these new features, because it's the longer you wait, the harder it is for us to say yes, and the more chances there are complications because of it.
Yeah.
The other thing is peak readiness. So, like we've been talking about, all the changes that carriers, USPS has made tons of changes in the last 2 years. There are changes in your system. There are new carriers, new labels, new processes. If you merge with another company, so your system may not be the exact same system as it was last year. So making sure that you've gone through a peak readiness, if you possible, test peak volumes in your lower environments, see how the system reacts. So the two things is plan ahead for work, and if possible, do a peak readiness.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely things that we can't expect, right? Like we had the recent Canada Post strike. Justin, those kind of supply chain issues, disruptions. How can businesses try to stay ahead there? Anything they can do?
Well, number one, don't create carrier-specific business rules. You're gonna want to, right? Because you can. We'll let you, right? We'll let you do that. But we'll often give you a caution saying, hey, you're locking yourself in. We have had some customers that learned a lot during the pandemic, and they do not have carrier-specific business rules. And so when that strike started, We actually installed a whole new carrier for them, commissioned it, and in a matter of days, okay, it wasn't 1 day. It was like 2 days they had started, and on the third day they were going full blast. And so in 3 days they had completely shifted all their Canada destination shipments to avoid this avoid that carrier while the strike was going on. Okay, and so good on that customer for following our advice. But I'm going to give everybody who's listening that exact same advice. Do not write your carrier business rules. Do not ask to have your business rules written carrier specific. It makes it a lot easier to add a carrier quickly and shift everything over to it. And it's even easier and faster if you already have that carrier in place and commissioned. It's a lot easier to go, okay, I'm moving everything from Canada Post over to Purelator or over to Loomis or something of that nature if you're already using it.
Jeff, you look like you got something to add there.
It's not that easy. That's what
it's not, but piggybacking off of that, having a backup plan, right? Having because that strike also affected customer shipping UPS, because there's certain lanes in Canada that UPS have also turned off because of the strikes. So having alternative options is always a good thing to think about. And during peak season, we've had some issues with performance of APIs, right? So if you're using some of the carrier APIs, they've had like 3-4 second turnarounds for rates and ships. So that can have drastic impacts on your ability to get packages out the door quickly. So it's always a good idea to have, what happens if we can't use this carrier? What do we do? Be prepared for the worst case.
Yeah. All right. So just wrapping up peak season. Any other final tips you guys wanna give? Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. And what I will say is when we first started, rate change occurred in January. Okay. This is the first year I have seen rate change occur before Christmas. So if you are a UPS customer, next Monday is when rate changes.
23rd.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are already hearing rumblings. We're looking ahead to 2025 about how data and security will be big. Jeff, as Director of Technology, I'm going to start with you. What is ProShip doing to keep our data safe, our customers' data safe?
Yes, on that topic, we've implemented, over the last 2 years, we've added new features to our product. We've changed our processes. We've added, we've supported OAuth and OpenID to our new APIs and our new UIs. We have, supported, the carriers have also changed their APIs. They themselves changed the authentication for connecting. They've added OAuth or other similar type authentication. So we've improved the product in that sense. Also on our side, we've making sure that when we're holding onto data, we're holding onto data that the only data required by the carrier we're manifesting and only holding on to for as long as we need to. ProShip has gone SOC 2 certified, Type 2 certified, and we recently also made some changes to our own ticketing system for PII. So we recognize that there are times where customers send us files, screenshots of error messages, and so on, and that data can contain PII. So we've added a process on our side to then redact all of those attachments, all of those images after the ticket's been closed. So, we do take that seriously, and any time that we can improve our process around data and security and protecting PII, we do.
Jeff, I think you sell one thing short, and that's the fact that the ProShip, many of our customers are cloud enabled at this point in time. Many of our high volume customers still need us on-prem, but they still need all that security. So with products like ProShip Gateway, we continue, I'm not going to call it a DMZ, but we continue to provide a TLS wall between us and the rest of the environment. So you've got that TLS pipe going with the OAuth to get into the pipe. You reduce that target, like he said, by not saving any information that's not required by the carrier and then purging it as quickly as possible. Really what it comes down to is much like military warfare, we want to be the smallest target possible, but also be hardened from all angles in the event somebody spots us to make us a target. That also includes, by the way we do support. The mechanisms that we use that record the sessions that we're doing, they are done over TLS tunnels as well, because what we don't want is we don't want somebody to crack our security and be able to get into your security as part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in preparing for this, we talked a little bit about, like you just said, authentication, authorization. Jeff, can you talk a little bit more about those and how those pieces fit together?
Sure. So yeah, we were kind of, the way I always look at it is authentication is, I always remember authentic. You know, are you authentically you? Are you who you say you are? Right. That is, or are you who you say you are? That is the authentication part of it. And that's what the OAuth piece of this that does OpenID is. It is meant to authenticate. Or you know, is this user who they say they are? You know, that's one part. The other part there is the authorization. You know, once you've authenticated, you know, are you authorized to have access to that particular component feature? You know, you could be, you know, authenticated into the shipping app, but are you authorized to void? Are you authorized to ship? Are you authorized to look at the history? You know, are you authorized to make selections on rate shopping? So that's a lot of the way we look at this in this design, you know, and approach going forward with our products. You know, so it is something you have to do, right? It is a complicated part. It takes a lot of effort to make sure that you're doing it right and you're covering all your bases, because security, I think, is it's just going to get more and more important the farther we go down this road.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, Justin, outside of security, what else is coming in 2025? How can businesses prepare? Anything else they should keep their eye out for?
We're going to see more carrier changes. I'm going to admit my prediction of a lot of carrier failures this year did not happen. You know, like any good pundit, I'm going to be like, it's going to happen next year. No, seriously though, there are a lot of carriers out there, and as we mentioned, a lot of them are fighting over a currently 3% yet growing piece of the market. Okay, we've already started to see some consolidations. Consolidations, I think, are better for the market because you don't lose your investment in the engine, right? We talked about it right now. Just recently, Canada Post people have been put back to work. Okay, I don't know how that ended. But it ended. We are seeing more and more the rise of labor. For those of you who study history, right? Industrial Revolution, that was really, really bad rise of labor. Okay, bad things happened then. But still, if we look back more recently in more calmer days, back in the 60s and 70s, we did see a labor battle there. I still continue to see more and more of these labor battles. They're still getting more and more press. So we can probably expect more labor conflicts over the next year. Be prepared. All the more reason to have systems that are backed up. And when you are relying upon, whether it's your own staff in your warehouses, or whether it is the staff, the personnel that handle and deliver the packages, being able to have contingency plans and software that will allow you to execute those contingency plans when these things happen.
Yeah. All right, awesome. I feel like we hit a lot of good topics today. Before we completely say goodbye, I think we'll run through a quick this or that. So, Jeff,
I do have one more thing to add. I have one more just point. So your predictions may not have been all right, Justin, but at the same time, you have to also give credit that there's technically a fourth major carrier, you know, through the unification between LaserShip and OnTrack. So it's another national carrier, technically speaking, right? So that's good news, right? So more options, more competition. Yeah.
And finally, a unified spec.
Happy, yay.
All right, awesome. So as I alluded to before, we'll do a quick this or that. some fun questions first, and then we'll hit you with some topic related ones. So, Justin, would you rather live in a forest or on a beach?
Oh, beach, hands down, every day.
Jeff, what do you think? Beach or forest?
Oh, forest. I far away as everyone else. I'm good.
Yeah.
Nice, forest. It's nice and shady, cool. I'm good.
Peaceful, yeah. All right, Jeff, would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
Ooh. I'll probably say past.
Yeah, Justin, you agree?
I know what's in the past. I don't know what's in the future.
That's it. That's my exact same reason. I already know what's in the past. I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
All right, last fun one. Would you rather learn to play a musical instrument or master a new language? Justin, what do you think?
Both are equally as difficult, and I'm actively choosing the language one right now.
Yeah. What are you learning?
Spanish. Second most spoken language in the United States. And the United States Spanish population is the second largest Spanish speaking population in the world, second only to Mexico, whereas Spain is now in third.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff? You learn to play a new instrument or are you learning a new language?
To do kind of like, I'm trying to think how to do both. And the only thing I think is like singing. So I'll use my voice as an instrument. So I'll learn the language of singing because I couldn't carry a tune if my life depended on it.
All right, we'll hit some more hard hitting ones now. Justin, would you rather face a global supply chain disruption or a major labor strike? Which one is going to be easier to get through?
I think it depends upon how prepared you are. Either is going to hurt. I think the labor strike, though, can be gotten around easier than the former. So I would go with the labor strike. As we've seen, a well-built contingency plan will allow you to get around it.
Yeah, Jeff, you on the same page?
I think so. The supply just sounds. I really don't want to have to fight people or toilet paper again. So I think I'd rather take the labor shortages and the labor strikes. So.
All right, which problem are we solving? Porch piracy or developing a system to predict customer returns? Jeff, what do you think? I'll start with you. Very different problems, but which one are you tackling?
I think the returns sounds a lot more interesting to me, and it's something that we can actually help influence and work on and assist with. Not maybe directly, but indirectly with customers with returns. And I know there's a whole bunch of there's a podcast I was listening to talking about fraud with returns. So, that's a big topic right now. Some major retailers have had some issues with returns with people, putting rocks and, bricks in boxes and returning them and getting credit for it and just taking the product. So that to me, from a logistics software problem solving standpoint, seems a lot more appealing than fighting off the porch pirates. If you got rid of all the porch pirates, then I would miss those videos of the guy from NASA that built that machine, that fart machine that like spin all the dust up and everything. I would miss those videos. So I as bad as that is, I kind of like that because I like watching his videos and watching those people go running once they get covered in fart spray. So.
See, this is why I'm going to pick porch piracy, because that's part of the solution. And you get to the version 5 and 6 of robots. Speaking of which, you can look at the ability of old technology like milk doors. Okay, I am sure that if we socialize it appropriately, those people who still have milk doors next to their back doors, they could get their products through there. I've actually used Amazon Key, where they actually deliver my goods inside my garage. Okay. Not to mention the fact that you start to see the commercialization of personal robots, right? I think that Tesla is probably going to push that, getting their Optimus Subprime to market first, and then Honda and Boston Scientific and others will actually start marketing theirs. If you're if your personal robot goes and picks the package up, it can't be porch pirated, right? But then there's also other low-tech ones like boxes that I've got a neighbor that they've got a box that they scan the tracking number, it opens the box, they're able to put it in there. So yeah, there are a lot of different technologies out there. And I'm going to tell you, probably the lowest tech one that the Europeans are way ahead of us on because of their density is delivery lockers, right? If you're in an apartment complex, you don't have much porch piracy if you've got a delivery locker in the center of the complex, because, well, as long as the doors are functioning, right, your stuff is in a box until you go to pick it up. So I think the porch piracy one is closer to being solved than the other. So
the drones are kind of interesting with that too, with those parcel lockers. I saw like where you had like the parcel locker with the drone that would like land right on top, and it would go down to the level it needed to go to, and then like insert the box
like
into the little spot. And
yeah. All right. Well, that was a lot that we talked about to unpack before we say our goodbyes. Let's hear some final thoughts. Jeff, we'll start with you. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I hope all the shippers had a really good peak, shipped a whole bunch of boxes, made a whole bunch of money. And anybody that's been in the logistics industry and has gone through a peak, they all have January 2nd marked in red and circled on their calendar, and they are counting down the days until January 2nd happens, until peak ends, for the most part. So I've got 16 more days to go. So I get to mark off my calendar pretty soon here for the next day. But beyond that, thanks for listening.
Justin, how about you?
I think there's a lot that we talked about today. Carriers continue to diversify. We see the next group of carriers starting to expand and gain more percentage, having gone from less than 1% to greater than 3% overall. AI, it's useful, but not for everything. And then contingency planning. Work with your software vendors to plan for your contingencies, and you'll be a happier company.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Justin and Jeff, for joining us. As the shipping industry continues to evolve, it's clear that staying informed and adapting change is key. Check out ProShip on LinkedIn to hear all about our next episode, or you can stop by and see us at the upcoming NRF trade show in New York. We'll be in booth 4148. Until then, happy sipping, happy shipping, and cheers.
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 Thanks for joining us on ProShip ParcelCast Unwined. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a review. We appreciate your thoughts. Looking for even more strategies and solutions to navigate the shipping landscape? Head over to our website at ProShipInc.com. We're not just another software company. We're dedicated to becoming the perfect fit for your unique needs, helping you ship smarter, not harder. Cheers, and see you next time.